Hello, good afternoon and welcome to my humble model railway, Bedstead Junction. This is Paul Cherry Trains channel. Now I'm going to be bringing you some Great Western locomotives this afternoon. Please excuse me if I struggle a bit because it's been very hot up here. The reason why I didn't go anywhere this afternoon was it promised to be rather thundery and rainy today. None of that's happened yet. You had a little bit of rain here, but it's very hot and humid. Okay, now the Great Western locomotives we'll be covering are all express passenger locomotives. And without any further ado, we'll have a look and we'll just see what we're going to be, have a look at the boxes just so you know what you'll be seeing. Okay. Right, so the first locomotive you'll be seeing is going to be R380 GWR 460 Loco St David. You can see right there. And this model was made in the 1980s, in fact in 1986. And proof of that is on the instructions. You should always put a rubber stamp on there giving you the model number R830 2011 1986. R830. Now the next model you're going to see is going to be R3864 GWR Star Class 460 Lodestar number 4003. I can see a much later model because it's DCC ready. The next model you'll see is going to be R30328 GWR Castle Class 460 Caerphilly Castle number 4073. And then finally R3332 BR Late King Class King Edward VIII 6029. Okay, so you can see that three of the models are much later models, and I'll explain to you why that is once we've got the St Class locomotive up and running. Right, so we're filming this on a different camera now, and this is on my new Canon camera, which is mainly for vlogging, but it's going to give me a chance to get the camera really up close to the locomotive in question. And this is it. This is St David, patron saint of Wales, of course. It's in Great Western livery. You can see the Great Western and the crest. 460 locomotive. I'd say for a model that was from 1986, a very nice model to have. Now, one thing which I will point out, and once I get a pointer to point with, here we go. How to spot a Churchward locomotive. This locomotive was designed by George Jackson Churchward, as was the Star Class. On the back of the cab there's a little C cut out and no side window. Okay, so they were smaller cabs on the Churchward locomotives. And we're going to see this locomotive in action in just a few moments' time. Right, so now we can see St David in action, and this is the line side view we've got here going now. Basically by the level crossing, just to make it look a little bit more dramatic. And Well, you probably agree this is quite a nice runner. I mean, considering that this model came out in 1986, so it's getting on for 40 years old, isn't it, in my guess? Not bad at all. Now, back in the time when these models were made, the only competition really would have been Mainline, which ceased trading in 1984, 2 years earlier than this one. But they then eventually became Batman. Also briefly called Replica Railways, so that was back to Mainline, the main competitor. And that's where Batman came from. This obviously is a Hornby. And very nice model. Very, very nice model. What we'll do is we'll change the viewpoint a little. And quite shortly what we'll see is this locomotive flying through the country station. There we are, doesn't that look good? Different views. I mean, this is my new camera. This is the Canon V10. It's a vlogging camera really. I say, but it's got the. Let's just change the viewpoint a little bit more. You've got an idea of what the actual station looks like. We don't very often get to see a view of this station. See the train thundering through. You can imagine it's maybe on its way from Paddington down towards one of the many resorts in Devon and Cornwall. And in fact, the Great Western Railway, or God's Wonderful Railway, as we say, wasn't called the holiday line for no reason. Could be going to Torquay, Dawlish, Teignmouth, Paynton, on the famous Paynton and Dartmouth Steam Railway. That's open now, it's a preserved line. And these were designed by George Jackson Churchward. They were a twin cylinder locomotive. And they were the very, very first of the 460 express passenger locomotives built for the Great Western Railway. Now, the reason why this locomotive remains a very much valuable part of my collection is because Hornby do not make a Saint. In fact, they've not made a Saint class locomotive after this one. And so what we're hoping for is that now that the Saint class Lady of Legends are being rebuilt now, and I've seen that locomotive on the railway, Hornby, please, pretty please, I'd love a model of that. Lady of Legend. It's out there, it's preserved, and many people can see it. I can imagine many people would love a model of that particular locomotive. There's what we've got here though, this is the wonderful St David, St Patron Saint of Wales. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this locomotive in shortly, and we'll watch it going into the station. Very, very nice. And now we can see this locomotive once more flying through the level crossing. And we've just gone by the signal box. So we'll give it one more circuit. I've not run this locomotive for a long time, so it's nice to see it out on the tracks again. I tried to give these a good run. What they tend to do, these models, certainly these, if they're left in the boxes for too long, they can become a little bit arthritic. Well, this one is anyway. If it gets left too long, it needs a nice run. And you can see now it's a lovely smooth runner. What a lovely locomotive. Now, before we bring St David into the station, let's take a quick look at Lodestar. Very much a lovely model. Got the classic Churchward cab. So that's what the Great Western cabs looked like until they were later models came out by Charles Benjamin Collett. Then they were larger cabs with side windows. You can see all the usual details you expect to find. Nameplate. I think that's a shirt button emblem there. That's in Great Western green. So both of these locomotives you can see here, the St David and the Lodestar, are in Great Western green, lime green. Also, the differences between the Saints class and the Star class was that the Saint class was a 2-cylinder locomotive, and these were the first of the wonderful line of 4-cylinder express passenger locomotives, the Star class. You can imagine what a revolution these would have made. I mean, before then, you would have had things like the City class, which would have been 440s. Or even as late as 1915, there were still Dean Singles running on the Great Western Railway. We'll have a look at some Dean Singles at some point. And it's nice to make a return to the Great Western Railway. But I thought, like I say, before we bring the St David in, we could take an opportunity to look at Lodestar. Right, so let's watch St David coming into the station. Isn't that something? Look at that. So it's not been run for a long time, so and there we can see the lovely Clerestory coaches there as well. Okay, so that's St David in all its glory. Right, so we're going to see Lodestar coming out of the station. Check we set the controller right. Going handheld with this a little bit, so as you can see, I handled that quite well. Right, so let's take a look at Lodestar running here now. Very nice runner, these. Share of the box, lovely runner. These are pulling the later Collett coaches. I would say we're in Great Western livery. I do believe this is a Great Western livery that might have been seen during the 1930s. Okay, very, very nice. The first of the 4-cylinder locomotives designed by George Jackson Churchward. And again, you can imagine this locomotive on its way from Paddington to somewhere like, for example, like Paignton on the English Riviera. Train full of happy holiday makers. And in fact, the 1920s and 1930s, in my opinion, well, the time up to the war probably brought a lot of the most significant railway developments. I mean, certainly these set the tone. And these were designed in the early 1900s. You imagine before that, the kind of locomotives, the same you'd have would be 440s. And even single wheelers still on the line up until 1915. What a lovely locomotive our Star class is. And again, we're going to get another view of it going through the country station. And so here it is on the way to our country station. There's some passengers on that station awaiting their train. Oh, this is an express train. Maybe they're waiting for a stopping train. Now these Hornby Star classes, very much worth getting in my opinion. I mean, this one here, it represents part of the National Collection, which is at the National Railway Museum at York. Now, a quote from Churchward, he was actually asked by the board why a Great Western locomotive costs more to construct than locomotives of other railways. And they did tend to be very, very highly engineered, and Churchward's answer was to that question that one of our locomotives could pull two of theirs backwards. And that was probably true. The Great Western had a tradition of building the most powerful locomotives, right up to the production of the King class. Now we're going to see a change of locomotive in a moment because we've got quite a lot to fit in. We'll get an overhead view. And that's handheld as well. Right, so because of the mobility of the camera, I can take advantage of a different angle again. And so in we come with the wonderful Lodestar. Gracefully into the station. Just go forward just a little bit more. Right. So we've seen both St David and Lodestar now. Right, so we're looking at two locomotives here, which represent the pinnacle of Great Western express passenger locomotive development. On this side, Caerphilly Castle, King Edward VIII. So these are the famous castles and kings. At the time of their production, they were the most powerful express passenger locomotives. Now we'll take a quick look at Caerphilly Castle in just a moment. Okay, so these were the first of the express passenger locomotives. This one is by Hornby, and I say it's the first of a series. These were the most numerous of the express passenger locomotives that were built for the Great Western Railway. And really, probably the most practical. And I'll explain to you why in just a moment. Now the King classes were absolutely top-notch developments, but only 30 of the Kings were built. And that's because of their weight. They could only be used on the most solidly built main lines. You can see here it's got a similar Great Western crest to Lodestar. The name there, Caerphilly Castle. And you can see immediately the difference between a Churchward design and a Collet design. And then you've got a larger cab with a side window. Again, the 460. And you can clearly see the outside steam pipes. Very, very nice. Now, I have done reviews of these locomotives in the past, so if you're interested in that, you can always go back and look at those reviews. Now we're going to give this one a run. Just going to have a quick change of points and then we're ready to go. Just checking we're correctly on the rails. So I've only just put this one on the rails. I'm just going to see. I do believe we are. There we go. That's the hand of the giants. And we can watch this one leaving the station now. What a superb sight. You know, I very often have the good fortune of spending the day at Dawlish, and that station is right on the beach, okay, right on the seaside. Couldn't get any closer to the seaside. And I've sat and watched the comings and goings of today's modern trains. And imagine what it must have been like to watch these mighty saints, stars, castles and kings flying on the track on the way to their seaside destinations, or maybe maybe taking holiday makers back home. Summer Saturdays were the most busy time for the railways. The time of the great changeover. And the busiest time of the railways went right the way through really to the late 1950s into the early 1960s. And it was in the 1960s that cars began to become more readily available to people. And also the phenomenon the coming of things like hire purchase enabled people to be able to make cars affordable. And of course there were new cars coming out like the Mini and the Cortina, and of course the motorways are being built. Well, that's a different story altogether. But up until at least the late 1950s, certainly after the war, I mean just after the war, lots of people wanted to go on holiday, and that meant going to places served by the Great Western Railway in Devon and Cornwall. And again now we'll be flying through the country station, a different view. And this does enable me, like I say, the advantage of having this smaller camera. I mean, I will be using my M50, the big camera. That'll be used, but this has been very much a trial of my new camera. And I thought it'd be nice to give these locos a run, because I've been running quite a bit of LNER stuff lately, haven't I? Chamoiseau was the last thing I was running. Which was the LNER A2/3 class, which was a model I could hardly recommend actually. So going off on a tangent there. But here we are, this one here, again Caerphilly Castle by Hornby. I can happily recommend this model. It's got no firebox glow, I give you that. But it's a very nice model. In fact the Saint class, which was from 1986, and then Lodestar, the Castle and the King have all run perfectly well out of the box. And when these locomotives are put up on trials, in comparison with locomotives from other railways, these came out very, very favourably in their power and in their economical coal consumption. So just watch this one fly one more time round. But we need to have time really to cover the King class. Sorry for rushing through this a little bit. We're running this in the afternoon, and I'm actually due to be going to someone's 75th birthday party this evening, so I might have to actually take this all down before I actually go out. Otherwise I could be sleeping on the living room sofa. Okay, but we'll worry about that later on. So we can see it's a very, very smooth runner. Very, very smooth indeed. I will watch this locomotive again coming through going past the signal box and through the level crossing. Quite a nice long side shot. And then we're going to watch this one pull into the station. And then we can have a look at our last locomotive, the Mighty King. Right, so here we go. Now again we're going to switch the camera view over. Let's bring it further back. Let's bring it back to the station there. There we go. And then we can watch this one come through the points and into the station. Okay, here we go. And just on a thought, before we actually go right in, let's have a look at our last locomotive for this afternoon. There it is, King Edward VIII, the Mighty King class, the most powerful of the Great Western 460s. Built for a particular reason. Now, when the castles were launched, they were the most powerful locomotive as far as tractive effort was concerned. But the Southern Railway came out with the Lord Nelson class, which was said to be the most powerful locomotive. And the Great Western Railway weren't going to take that lying down, and so came the King class. Now a lot had to happen before the King classes were allowed to be built and even run. A lot of the bridges had to either be bridges and infrastructure had to be rebuilt or reclassified in order for these to be given clearance to run, and that was because of their weight. The heaviest of the 460 locomotives of the Great Western Railway, and they were only limited. Well, they were limited to the most strongly constructed of the main lines. And with this, the Great Western Railway retook their crown. Pardon me. And this is another model by Hornby. Right, so here's a superb King class running its way through the station here. And the Kings were the ultimate in development of the Great Western Railway Express passenger locomotive. Most powerful, magnificent locomotives. Only 30 were built, really down to the weight restrictions. They were only allowed to run on certain lines, and in fact some of the lines had to be adapted in order to take the weight of this particular locomotive, or certainly there had to be approval from the civil engineer before these could be actually built and run. But they did in fact actually gain the Great Western Railway their place as the company with the most powerful locomotive as far as tractive effort was concerned, and in fact it took the Lord Nelson class. Now these are very, very nice models. I got this one from the Model Railway Emporium, and I can highly recommend it for that particular company. Very, as I say, no problem with this model at all. It ran perfectly well out of the box, and it continues to run smoothly to this day. It's not been run for some considerable time, but as you can see, it's a lovely runner. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some more action shots. And there it goes, thundering its way through the station on its way to the seaside. Imagine people, residents of London, actually taking the train from Paddington and looking forward to their journey to the English Riviera, or sometimes to the Cornish Riviera Express. Those wonderful days of the Great Western Railway, and certainly this model more than adequately represents it. It's got a double chimney, and it's in the late British rail crest, and this is really the actual peak of development, one of the final developments of the King class. Really given the double chimney and extra superheating to give more power, but really as well to enable the locomotives to run on lower quality coal. Unfortunately, the top quality coal wasn't always available after the war. Now we are going to watch this one come back into the station. We're starting to run out of time a little bit, but I mean, I'm due to go out this evening, but I should be okay. I should have enough time. I'm ready to go. Let me just sit down and just enjoy watching this one run for a while. So, another fantastic model by Hornby. It doesn't have the firebox glow which you get on some more modern offerings, but really it's a magnificent locomotive as far as detail is concerned, and for me at least, I would say for realism, it's got a lovely coal load on it and everything else. I have done reviews of these locomotives in the past, so if you want to see more of a close-up views and everything else, then yes, by all means do so. This is going to be like an experimental video for me tonight, showing my new camera and what I can do with long-side shots. And eventually what I'll do is, when I come to make more videos, I'll probably still use the large camera on the tripod, and then use this one more for the line side shots, so I can get a kind of a dual action thing going on. Now we're going to wrap things up for tonight. If you like what you see, please press the like button and subscribe and ring that bell so you'll be able to see future videos. And we'll just watch this locomotive go around just a few more times. and I should bid you farewell and good evening.